Panawn Thar, and a very warm welcome back to Match Day Live. How's your summer been? Hope you've enjoyed the World Cup and you've coped okay with 4 months between Wrexham's last fixture here in competitive football against Middlesbrough and our return today against Watford. Match Day 2 in the Sky Bet Championship season. Wrexham, of course, off and running with that draw at Cardiff City on Monday night. Expectation all around North Wales. Can the club go one better than last year and make it perhaps into the Sky Bet Championship playoffs? A lot of football to be played, a lot of points to discuss. Delighted this afternoon to be once again welcomed on Match Day Live to Mia Roberts, returning from your summer break. Looking well, Mia. We look forward to hearing all about your trip to the US, and covering for Andy Morrell, who's gone back to the US on a bit of a holiday. Mark Howard, always a privilege to have in the studio. Thank you, Mark, for joining us today. So much to get into, folks, as we build up to this game this afternoon. We'll try and do justice to so many talking points which have occurred since we were last on air. If we were to take it broadly chronologically, Mia, and to take it back to the end of last season, obviously on that final day, Wrexham oh so near. And when we saw what happened in the playoffs with Hull getting promoted, it just makes you realise just how close Wrexham could have been to starting this season in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but it feels like a long time ago since we were stood here for that Middlesbrough game, and yeah, I think at the time it was a bit of a weird sort of feeling. Obviously, everyone was so happy with that final position, and to do as well as we did on that first return to the Championship. But maybe over the summer, then obviously looking at what Hull achieved, you were sort of going, well, that could have been us, and that's just how close the Championship is, and I expect that to be exactly the same this season in terms of those, just one goal in it, 1 point in it, or whatever. I expect it to be very similar in that sense, and yeah, fair dues to Hull, because again, against what the bookies said, they went through, and obviously there was a lot of drama, shall we say, in those playoffs, and yeah, they did the business, and I think as we speak at the moment, I think they're beating Man United at the MKM, so what a story, what a summer it's been for them as well.
Yes, we'll come back to how the playoffs unfolded, but Mark, if we just take a perspective on what Wrexham fans can realistically perhaps aspire to this season, when you look at the clubs that have come and gone from the division, and perhaps the challenge of being less the unknown quantity this season as a Championship outfit, how do you think that will all break for Wrexham in terms of aspirations for the season and what might be possible?
I think the world's their oyster. I really do. I think that this season, that Wrexham and the fan base will be expecting a playoff as a minimum, and hopefully sneak into the top two. There's so much to be thrilled by from last season and the way that it finished. The form that they had from Christmas onwards was just immense, and I think that they'll be trying to start the season like that. I think last year, the undoing eventually, you can look back at the opening 2 months of the season and say, that's where we put our finger on it. We maybe didn't get as many points on board as we needed to, and they'll be looking to rectify that at the start of this season, and hopefully that does push for a really promising season again. But as I was saying earlier, that 3 promotions in a row, last year missing out on the playoffs just is an incredible feat. Let's not take it away from what actually they did achieve last year, and it is huge that they got that close. I mean, a lot of people thought that they might struggle their first season in the Championship, and to say that they were knocking on the door, and due to some unforeseen circumstances regarding Southampton, it created a bit more drama.
Let's talk a little bit about that, Mia. What was your take on how all that played out and where we are now with all that?
Yeah, it was just incredibly messy, I thought, and my personal opinion of it, listen, it's wrong, it's cheating, and it's not right, it shouldn't happen. I don't see how that can happen as well, and listen, obviously Southampton have been punished. There's still things in the process, maybe there'll be more that comes with that, but it has such a massive effect, and maybe we saw that going into this season now, obviously not just the -4 points that they currently sit on, but when they played Watford at Vicarage Road on Saturday, they're sort of the baddies that everyone wants to beat this year, and that's not just maybe on pitch. I saw Cipriano, he was fired up for it against Taylor Howard-Bellis, but also in the fans, the atmosphere that brings. It's almost like we've sort of had it over the last few years. Everyone sort of wants to beat us, Hollywood FC and all this, all the jeers, all the jibes. I think that's Southampton's role this year, and there's two sides to that. They can take that in their stride and go, well, no, we deserve to be there. Whatever they may say, they can relish that, or that can become a real difficulty for them. And I think that's a really interesting point to see just how they get on this season.
So Spygate came and went, at least for now. There is still an FA inquiry. We're expecting to hear more probably in September. But that was followed, of course, by adventures in America, in Mexico and in Canada with the World Cup. Mark, you had the chance to be involved in some World Cup coverage. Tell us about what you were up to.
Yeah, so I managed to do a little bit of work for another broadcaster talking about the experienced goalkeepers that were at the World Cup. I think I worked it out that there was 8 or 9 over the age of 38, and
wow,
is there anyone more poised to talk about that sort of a situation at 39 years myself? So yeah, it was an amazing experience. I got to talk about England and obviously tie it into a bit of a Wrexham talk as well, and yeah, just working towards life after football. I'm still got the gloves on, just looking for a new club, but the media stuff is something that I've always enjoyed doing, and being invited back on here again, it's a real privilege.
Well, it's great to have you, Mark, and we look out with interest to see where your gloves might head next this season. We do know that Mark's going to be with us for the Birmingham City game on Match Day Live next Friday, so hopefully not before then. Mia, what did you make of the World Cup as a spectacle in terms of the standard of football that we saw?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I think something it opened my eyes up to a little bit was obviously the time zones, and it makes you realise, those Wrexham fans, whether they're in North America or wherever, the times they're getting up for our games. And listen, I commended that anyway, of course, but it's another thing when you actually have to do it yourself. So I was trying to get up for as many as I can. Listen, it's easier when it's a club you support. Obviously, Wales weren't in it, so I was anyone who was playing England, obviously. Sorry, Mark, but no, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really good spectacle. I think the right team won it in the end. I thought Spain were absolutely brilliant. Also won the under-19s Euros on this pitch as well this summer, Spain. So a top nation who are just on top of football right now.
And you mentioned, Mia, there, the ground here, because of course we've seen a significant difference since we were here in May to the structure to my immediate right, because back in May, you might remember from watching Matchday Live and footage from that game against Middlesbrough that the Kop in progress looks something like this, as you will see on screen now. That was then. And through the summer, there has been a huge amount of work going on to develop the facility. Each week, people have been taking photographs, I know, and sharing on social media, because the situation today is rather different, as you can see on screen now. Huge progress has been made in the construction over the summer, and we can certainly see the shape of the building very much becoming prevalent. We look forward, of course, through the season to seeing how the Kop continues to develop and when those first red seats might appear. The sprinklers are still here, though. That's a consistent part of life at Wrexham. I can see they are lively behind us, hopefully just about out of reach, so we'll try and maintain life without umbrellas, at least for now. When we look ahead then to the new season, Mia, we're going to get into the new Wrexham players in just a moment, but you've seen the first 2 games at Middlesbrough and Cardiff. What's been your take out on the Wrexham performances so far?
Do you know what? Overly positive. I think obviously results-wise, not so much. Middlesbrough starting off, I thought we were really good first half. I thought there were a lot of positives in there. Second half, we sort of tailed off, looked tired, which is to be expected. They were coming off the back of a lot of travelling, obviously, going out to Poland, then Helsinki, then obviously America. So that was a lot. You could sort of see that there was a little bit of jet lag still there. But then going into Cardiff, first league game, they looked right up for it. And, that's something I was not worried about, but was in the back of my mind, especially after the game here versus Cardiff last season, the game away at Swansea, big Welsh rivalries that maybe last season we didn't look like we really knew the sort of purpose of those games and the meaning behind them, and especially what it means to those in the stands. But Monday, you couldn't have said that at all. Absolutely no arguments in terms of what the team showed and had in that department. So they put everything into it, and in the end, I think we're very unlucky to come away with just a point.
Yeah, Mark, I guess from a player's perspective, I can see Phil's just approaching to join us, but to get up and running with a Welsh derby in match day 1, there's no bigger jolt, I suppose, to get you tuned in for the season. Yeah,
exactly that. And for the fans, I think on paper it would have looked an amazing fixture. Phil, less so. He would have liked a bit of an easier start, but yeah, a great point nonetheless.
Wrexham off and running then with that point at Cardiff, and Phil Parkinson, the manager, just coming in to join me for the first time this season on Matchday Live. Phil, lovely to see you as ever, and thank you for your time. The first home game of the season then in the Championship. What are your thoughts looking ahead to Watford today?
Yeah, obviously they had a good start last week. They were physical against Southampton. They really unsettled them. We've got to be ready to match that today, first and foremost. They're probably a team who will sit off the ball at times and play on the counter, and we've got to be an understanding of how to deal with that. I think the wide players are good young players, but they can be naive defensively, so we've got to test them out. And yeah, continuation of what we did on Monday, but obviously can we go one better in terms of getting a win?
You made one alteration to your side today. Ben Whiteman comes in for his first start ahead of Matty James, who drops to the bench. What's your thinking behind that one?
Yeah, just logical really. Matty obviously had a bit of spasm in his thigh, like a cramp related feel to it, which he was fine. He's trained the last couple of days, but with the long journey back, and Matty obviously being a 30-plus player, felt all those factors into consideration, and Ben being, obviously a really good player for us. Yeah, that was no more than that.
Danny Imray, Ben Whiteman, who we've mentioned, and Anthony Patterson all getting their first taste of playing in front of a home crowd this afternoon. How important was it for you, Phil, to get them blooded early into feeling what it's like to be a Wrexham player here?
Yeah, of course. Pato, needed Monday's game. Some minutes. Probably was that game was important for him because he hadn't played as much as other players in pre-season, and Danny's getting there as well physically. Thought he was really good, but like we explained when we signed him, because the Premiership schedule was a little bit behind ours, he joined us slightly behind. But yeah, of course, great to see all three of them on the pitch today.
You've cited after the Cardiff game how pleased you were with much of the performance, how on the front foot your team was, and but for a great free kick at the end it would have been all 3 points. Yeah. Are you looking to try and replicate that kind of front foot mentality today? Yeah,
of course. I think that every single game we've played, that's the intention, and today will be no different. That we want to be aggressive in our pressing, aggressive in the duels, and take a lot of the qualities we showed on Monday into today's game. We know the qualities we bring here at home when we have our success, and it's now looking forward to seeing us replicate that today.
Just finally, no Ben Sheaf, Libby Kakachi or Josh Windus in the matchday squad. Were any of them close to making the squad today?
Josh is the closest. He's done his final day today really. He'll be available for next Friday. The other two unfortunately still not with us.
Phil, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully catch up with you at full time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson giving his thoughts ahead of today's game against Watford, a 3 o'clock kickoff, that one. Let's have a look then at the Wrexham team who Phil has just outlined to us. Just one change from the team who drew 1-1 at Cardiff City on Monday night. Ben Whiteman coming in for Matty James in central midfield. So Anthony Patterson continues in goal. Back three of Zach Viner, Dom Hyam and Callum Doyle. Danny Imray will play right wing back, George Thomason left wing back. Ben Whiteman aligns with Lewis O'Brien in central midfield. Then it's Ollie Rathbone and Nathan Broadhead who will support Kiefer Moore, scorer on Monday at Cardiff, in attack. The bench has a very similar flavour to the one we saw at the Cardiff City Stadium, just James swapping with Whiteman. Very much a case of continuity, Mia, which suggests to me a manager who was pretty impressed by the squad he put out on Monday.
Yeah, and rightfully so. As I mentioned before, Phil came in. I thought they were very impressive on Monday. I've seen a few people critique them because after getting the goal, they weren't necessarily high in possession. I think in the end it was about 33% to 66, but that's not our sort of style of play. And also if you look at the statistics, we made so many chances. I think it was 7 shots on target in the end. The most chances actually created on the opening day of the Championship by any Championship side. So that sort of shows you the levels we were at on Monday night. And it was just one of those where we just didn't take those chances, and in the end obviously lived to regret that. But no, I thought for the whole 11 really very strong, very solid, and obviously Matty James was forced off, so maybe that's why he's not come straight back in. But Ben Whiteman first starting in Wrexham shirt, very excited to see him. I think again it's a proper Phil Parkinson signing, if you like. I think you know what you're going to get with him. I think he's averaging 40 games over the past 3 seasons or so he's going to be available, and that's a huge asset to have in this squad.
Let's talk a bit more about Ben Whiteman, because Mark, you played with Ben at the start of his career. Tell us a bit about your early impressions of him as a young player.
Yeah, so Ben was at Sheffield United when I was an established first team player then, and he was coming through the ranks there. We had 2 really good young centre midfielders in Ben and Louis Reed, who's had a good career in League 1, League 2 level. But yeah, Ben was a really impressive player. His use of the ball and the range of his passing was always really impressive. And every time he joined in, very professional, quiet, unassuming, but just went about his business really well. And I think you'll see that in his performances.
Yeah, Whiteman, a very established player at this level with Preston North End. We'll spotlight the new signings a little bit later in the programme, but we've got the chance now to reflect a bit on the pre-season campaign, because Wrexham have been both off into Europe and to the United States of America in preparing for this season. Let's have a reminder of some of the highlights as Phil Parkinson's side have built up to the new campaign.
You know, we've shown we can compete. We know where we'll need to get better, but you know, we'll work hard again in the summer to try and improve the group to give us a good chance next season.
So from Krakow to Helsinki, and with 3 stops in the United States, Wrexham have been racking up the air miles in their pre-season campaign this year, getting some very meaningful match practice with 4 Premier League teams squared up against. Let's have a reminder of the full set of results from Wrexham's pre-season campaign, because it started in Poland with a trip to Wisła Krakow to help them celebrate a club anniversary. Then an excellent 1-0 win against Manchester United up in Helsinki. Then attentions turned stateside. A victory over Leeds United in Tampa by 3-2 in the heat, followed by narrow defeats against Liverpool at the New York Yankees Stadium, and finishing off in Philadelphia against Sunderland. Mark, that's a fairly stellar card of opposition for a pre-season set. If you were in the Wrexham squad and that was put in front of you, how would you feel about that as a pre-season campaign?
Delighted. Some of those opposition, you're dreaming about facing them next year. I think that's the whole point of doing it, is to test yourself against the best. And yeah, there's no better way or time to do it for Wrexham, and to build towards the start of the season. Obviously last week at Cardiff, but Phil would have used all of those games as a test to try out different formation, different players in different positions, and see how they cope against a better opposition.
And just talk to us, Mark, about the different challenge that a Championship player would have in facing a Premier League player.
Yeah, just that you have less of the ball naturally. Their touch is a little bit better, their brain's faster, they're physically probably stronger and quicker. So it's always going to be a tougher test. You've got to be prepared to raise your game to match theirs, and that's hard to do over a full season. So by playing them in pre-season, it prepares you over those 7-8 games for the test ahead for these big Championship games.
Amir, you made the trip to America, but before that you went up to Finland for the game against Manchester United in Helsinki. Talk to us a bit about that experience and the win.
Yeah, brilliant. I think obviously you can write it off as a pre-season game against, you know, maybe a young Manchester United side, but that for me wasn't really the case. Obviously first half, in both halves, both teams played different 11s, but in that first half Man United had Mason Mount, I think Patrick Dorgu played, Harry Maguire, you know, a number of players, Luke Shaw, who were probably going to be in Manchester United starting 11s in the Premier League. So, a great challenge for that Wrexham side, and one they really stood up to. I thought Sam Smith was brilliant that day. I thought Aaron James, was putting another really good performance. A number of really good performances from these players in what was only, I think, our second pre-season fixture. So, again, really positive signs.
And then looking across to the American leg, you were in New York for the game against Liverpool and also in Philadelphia for the Sunderland match. We're going to catch up in a little bit about your experience of being out there, but if we look at the actual in-bowl experience, just talk to us a little bit about the Liverpool game played at the New York Yankee Stadium. I mean, converting an iconic baseball ground for a football match. What was it like?
Insane, honestly insane. We got the subway down to outside the ground, and immediately it gives off you sort of Wembley vibes, just in terms of how big obviously it is and all the activations they have going on outside the ground. And obviously it was all just red because obviously Liverpool and Wrexham, and it was just an unbelievable spectacle. Walking into the ground, first of all, we arrived weirdly same time as Ben Foster and Ben Tozer, so they were just getting mobbed, and it was just crazy. And then obviously getting inside the ground itself, and you could physically see obviously still the baseball markings, and it sort of was a bit of a weird one trying to get your bearings in terms of it still felt like obviously a baseball pitch, but no, incredible. And then the atmosphere as well to go with it was obviously different, but amazing. I know Phil Parkinson touched on it as something he'll never forget from a personal note as well. And yeah, just when you look at where we were, I know we say it every week, but when you look at where we were a few weeks ago to some of the grounds we were going to, no disrespect to those, to be then playing at the Yankees, I mean, wow.
Incredible. Mark, you've had a few tastes obviously in Wrexham colours in the US, including this summer a little bit earlier with the TST adventure. What did you notice had changed perhaps from your first visit out there to when you went back out there now in terms of the level of interest in the team?
It's growing year on year. It's one of those things that all of the players, we've just loved every experience out there. There's no bad words to say about the trip. Like, people will look at it and say, oh, there's a lot of travelling or the opposition's tough, but honestly, the interactions that you do have with the fans and touring the country, it's an amazing experience first and foremost. So it's only something that you look at as a player with like pride, and to say that you've been part of, and also the enjoyment aspect is so important for like the team building and getting to know the new players, and for morale. It's just an incredible time.
And in your long career, just thinking of unusual places that have staged football matches, is there one that stands out for you where you said, I actually played in a stadium not designed for football, or somewhere particularly unusual?
I think mine would have been the Seattle American Football Stadium. I went there a very, very long time ago with Cardiff at the start of my career, and just thought, this is an incredible place. But in terms of actual stadiums out there, I still can't think of any better than the Snapdragon in San Diego. Just the atmosphere, the flyover before the game, floodlights that had fireworks coming out that was like a dragon's teeth. It was just an amazing venue.
Astonishing experiences to have, and we didn't want to let Mia and Andy Morrell, who also got out to America for some of the pre-season tour, come home without giving their reflections while they were there on what it was like to walk through the streets of Philadelphia.
Well, here we are, downtown Philly, just down the block from the City Hall, this amazing city of brotherly love, an incredible spot, and, well, we're just living the dream. Mia, Andy, this is madness, isn't it?
Oh, it's just berserk, isn't it, really?
Berserk's the word.
Honestly, every day so far, it's felt like some sort of insane dream that you just can't believe. You walk out your apartment and there's someone in a Wrexham shirt, or someone who lives on Dean Road. It's absolutely bonkers, and
pinch
absolutely
me moments. When you're just walking around, just taking in everything that's here as a fan and as I suppose as a sightseer of a trip. It's just been sensational. And you're walking down and somebody else is walking in a kit, and up the Rex, up the town, and a shout. It's just been immense from start to finish. I can't say how highly I've loved the trip from start to finish, with the football as a sprinkling in there, because I'm just having a look around and loving life.
I mean, New York. I mean, the city of apples, what a place. But I mean, to go there, to have the kit launch in Times Square, I mean, the place was just thronged with Wrexham fans. That was a remarkable, surreal moment, and showed you how far we come.
No, it was mental. And then watching obviously the Michael press the button and, everyone clapping and then suddenly they all came down in front of us, didn't they? And, it was obviously the shirt for one looked beautiful, but also just seeing that amount of red in Times Square and, whether it's Mickey, whether it's Wayne from the turf, obviously Michael, all the staff, brilliant that they got that opportunity as well. And yeah, what a way to sort of, launch the new
and speaking
kit.
to the fans over here, they're sort of saying to me, I don't think the Brits realise the importance and what that ringing of that bell of the NASDAQ actually means over here and what type of companies do that. And it's a different scale to where we were, 15, 20 years ago. It's quite remarkable.
It's been really special, and to be in those pubs singing the songs of Sing Back Home Anyway, and with a lot of the same people. Obviously Wayne, Eric Allen was in a fair few with us, but also to have these new people that join in with those songs, but exactly like us, they know all the lyrics, they understand the meaning, and it feels like you're back home still in a weird way, but just with you're in New York or Philly. It's bizarre.
Yeah, well, I thought walking up to the game, let's talk about the game, shall we? Because playing Liverpool in the Yankee Stadium, again, the locals are saying you don't realise the history that this place has. It's like you're Wembley and playing there and having an actual football match inside there. I thought it was a right high tempo. I thought both teams were getting after each other. It was immense, wasn't it? 40,000 people in there, all in red, playing Liverpool, the lads walking out. They must have been just loving it,
Exactly. We're not in the co-op opposite St. Giles School anymore, are we?
You know what?
I got quite emotional because, in the entrance hall of the Pele soccer store, it's all Wrexham. They're showing the launch video. They're showing the stadium from the 1950s. And I'm thinking, wow, my dad, who watched Wrexham in the 40s and during the war, what would he make of Wrexham launching our kit in Times Square? Push Real Madrid and Man United out of the way. It's Wrexham. And then seeing the Declan Swans performing in downtown Manhattan, singing about Bryn Teg, my dad's hometown, and just, village, just to be honest. I'm thinking, again, what his mind would have been blown. It's just, I feel privileged that this club is drawing people in because of the stories, because of community, because the show's about community. And as a result, we're not just picking up tourist fans, we're picking up committed people who will travel to watch us, to support us, and want to share their stories. And that's a beautiful, life-affirming thing, and it goes way beyond it's sport to what sport can genuinely achieve.
I came out 3 or 4 years ago on the TST, the first trip out for that, and got a sense of what it was like, walking back from that first Como game with Sean Harvey, and he was here to have a look to make sure that the next tour that the first team were coming out on was going to be okay, and him saying, we're going to need security when we're walking away from it because the place was just up off its feet. I've got a sense that 3 or 4 years down the line, it is times 10 plus how big this thing is going, and it keeps going. And I don't think it's ever going to stop at the moment. It is just such a brilliant story, and I've had the time of my life in this last week.
Andy Morrell and Mia Roberts reflecting with Mark Griffiths in Philadelphia on what it was like to follow Wrexham on their pre-season campaign. Just briefly, Mia, you mentioned in the video about the NASDAQ stock exchange moment when Wrexham opened the stock exchange that day, Michael Williamson pressing the button and that flood of red shirts appearing on Times Square. Of all the pinch me moments in Wrexham 2.0 since the arrival of Robin Ryan, that's got to be pretty much up there.
Certainly up there, and like I think Mark alluded to, it's something maybe we as Brits don't quite, or Andy said, we don't quite understand the magnitude of that. Like when, I speak to Americans or Canadians in Wrexham shirts out there, and I'm trying to explain to them why it's so crazy for them to be wearing a Wrexham shirt, and they can't quite understand why it is. But so many moments, honestly, I could list and talk about them all day. Declan Swans, watching them in a random bar in Philadelphia, take the roof off with, however many hundred, singing all the lyrics to every single song, just remarkably insane and beautifully, bonkers.
Back to the present, if you're just joining us on Matchday Live today, one change from Phil Parkinson for the starting 11 for Wrexham. Ben Whiteman comes in to make his full debut in central midfield. Matty James drops out, he drops to the bench. Otherwise, Wrexham unchanged in terms of the other 10 starters and the rest of the bench from the team who drew at Cardiff on Monday. Just reflecting on the game so far this season, Mark, obviously the season opened with a Carabao Cup disappointment at Middlesbrough. One aspect of that will of course be for fringe players. That pretty much wipes out entirely any football up until Christmas, unless Phil is prepared to give them opportunities in the Championship, because there are no other cup competitions, there's no Virtue Trophy when you get to playing in the Championship. How do you think that might change how he manages the squad, and what might it be like for one of those players who's struggling for opportunities in Championship football to potentially have to wait until the FA Cup in January before they can pull a first team shirt on again?
Yeah, that would be hugely frustrating for the rest of the team that are not getting as many minutes as they would like. I think that we'll see a slight change in the squad. You almost don't need to carry as many numbers, so there could be a couple of more outgoings before the transfer window closes. I think Phil will be on top of them, making sure that they get top-up sessions during the week or behind closed doors games. I know they happen quite a lot now. It's just more about managing the squad now, and that will be difficult for Phil, because you're trying to dangle a carrot for some players, and if they haven't got those 3, 4, 5 extra games a season, it's going to be tough to keep everyone happy. But that's all in the skill of being a good manager, and Phil's got that in abundance. So it's more about just the day-to-day, making sure that the loads manage. The sports scientists will be heavily involved with the physio teams and making sure that everyone's trying to cover as much ground as possible. Their sprint distances need to be ready in case they are required. It's a difficult one to manage, but a frustrating one for those players that are not going to be involved in the Carabao Cup games.
Amir, it's going to mean the first half of the season up to the end of the year is going to have quite a different look to last year, because of course the run to the fourth round was quite a big feature of that first half of the season. Do you think that will increase positively the amount of focus that can be placed on the Championship matches, or is it the other argument that applies, which is, well, if you have a good run in a cup, it builds confidence for the league and it gives more game time for combinations to develop?
Yeah, it goes both ways, doesn't it? And we saw that last season, obviously going fairly far in the FA Cup. Maybe did that cost us in the league because of injuries, suspensions? I love the cup competitions. I think especially FA Cup, obviously in terms of Wrexham's history, I think we've always got to be in them and always got to give our everything in those. But maybe the Carabao one is the one that is going to suffer more, and obviously this season to go out of it immediately, maybe that does help us at the start of this Championship season. We've got less players to bed in. Obviously that's different to last season when we were still gelling a lot of new players together more. But yeah, listen, it's difficult, isn't it, like Mark's alluded to, with those fringe players, because they just don't get those minutes, especially in front of fans, because that makes a difference. Behind closed doors are one thing, but in front of everyone here on the Kairos is another. So listen, it's one of those, you can see it both ways, and we'll just have to see how the season sort of plays out so far to maybe make a judgment on that.
So no joy in the Carabao Cup for Wrexham this year, but it was a positive start in the league campaign on Monday night at the Cardiff City Stadium. So close to being all 3 points. Let's have a reminder of how this one played out in South Wales.
From this Wrexham team, of course, O'Brien floats it in, headed away comfortably, and Thomason just beaten to it on the edge of the area. The ball hoisted to the halfway line, back over the top, and now Moore round the back of the fence, tight angle, hits a shot. Oh, what a goal! Keeper Moore after 2.5 minutes gives Wrexham the lead in the Welsh derby. The Wrexham fans are going insane. Swept in dangerously, headed away well in front of the keeper, right up in the air. Trott Combs doesn't get there. It bounces in the 6-yard box, headed on. What a save by Trott. At full stretch, just manages to tip it onto the bar. Good turn, finds Thomason on the left. Early ball again is a good one, cutting back to the edge of the area. Broadhead brings Doyle in, 30 yards out. Square to O'Brien again. Cardiff all bar Salek behind the ball. Viner now. Umre makes a great run. Viner plays a great ball. Umre drives it in and wins another corner. Does he? Goal kick given. Lunging, desperate tackle by Scanlon. Ball swept in nicely and headed away from under the bar. Matty James, well, he got there first, it seemed, and then didn't make contact, but it's a great ball back in. Ball driven by Doyle. It's the post that goes behind. Good God, he hit that. That was a thunder strike, that, wasn't it? Wowee.
A little bit overhit.
Broadhead on long ranger, just wide. Mia was off her seat. Man, that was a lovely strike. He just found a little pocket of space, drove towards the edge of the area. and it was a good hit. Tross was diving. Ooh, he was so lucky he didn't. The fella has fallen to Wrexham, edge of the area. Shot comes in and just wide. What a close shave that was. Close ripping the shot in, just missed the top right corner. Lifts it over the top. It's a great run by Smith, and he's in behind Osho. Can he hit this? Lifts it over the keeper, just wide. Another shot that scrapes the post. I'm going to say it again, and it's 6 added minutes. How is this only 1-0? The Cardiff fans energised by that. Good work to work it wide. Capaccio chips it in awkwardly, and it's a fabulous clearance from under the big chance. Smith did Osho then, who, to be fair, recovered well. See a thing here though. Here we go. Drills it. It's in. And Cardiff equalise in the 98th minute.
Late heartbreak then at the Cardiff City Stadium. Ruben Colwill's free kick in the end denying Wrexham what looked like being 3 points after a really encouraging performance over the 90 minutes. But a point on the road, always valuable, particularly if you can back it up with a home win, and it's Watford who stand between Phil Parkinson's side and that here this afternoon. Mia, you headed down to Cardiff on Monday, the most shots on target for any Championship club in the opening weekend. Wrexham certainly gave it a good go.
They absolutely did, and I think that's why there was so much disappointment, and why it felt like a loss really in the end, given the context obviously of the last minute goal and just how well they performed. And on the back of the performance at Middlesbrough the week before, I thought they played well on the ball but didn't necessarily create a lot of chances, and that was really flipped on its head then going into that Cardiff game, and yet you just felt so disappointed, and it did just feel like a loss coming away from Cardiff on the Monday night. And I think Phil Parkinson described the change room as being very flat, and yeah, very frustrating because and listen, you've got to give Cardiff credit. It's an individual moment of absolute brilliance from Ruben Colwill, who if I'm going to get a positive from the game, it's hopefully Craig Bellamy was watching him and puts him in the next Wales squad. But no, listen, it's so frustrating, especially when Wrexham had that ball at the other end, and could they do better in that situation before he even gets to, his brother obviously gets to the edge of the box and wins the free kick. Could have been a penalty as well. Listen, I don't think there's much Patterson can really do. I think once he stepped and committed the strike of the ball on that free kick, it's pretty unstoppable, personally.
How did you see that? Do you think Patterson had a chance with the free kick, Mark?
I think he'll be disappointed with it. I think that he'll be desperate to make amends today, but I do think that he's almost taken a half of a lean. It's put him a little bit off balance, and then the pace has caught him by surprise. I think that the pace trajectory does slightly do him, where as a goalkeeper, especially in that moment, you normally say, I'll take my side, I'll do my job. If it goes over the wall and beats me in that final yard of goal, that's an unbelievable finish to a game. But yeah, I think he will go away from that slightly disappointed and know that some fingers will be pointed at him.
So Cardiff City, one of 6 new teams for Wrexham fans to learn about this season and prepare to face over the next 9 months or so. And we're going to spend a little bit of time now just looking at 3 of those. There's 3 teams, of course, dropped into the Championship this season from the Premier League: West Ham United, Burnley and Wolves. We'll look at them in a bit of detail on Friday night when we're back here for Birmingham City on Match Day Live. But today we'll spotlight the 3 clubs who've come up: Lincoln City, Bolton Wanderers and Cardiff City, who we were just mentioning. And we'll start with the Bluebirds. Mia, having reflected on Monday and looked at that Cardiff squad, what sort of season do you think they will have under Brian Barry Murphy?
I think it's going to be really tough. I think they've got a really good side, and arguably for me their biggest asset is their manager and their head coach in Brian Barry Murphy. I think he's so highly rated across the EFL, also above that as well. Has had experience in the development squads at Man City, brought through players like Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis's, these sorts of boys who've gone through right to the top level and are doing things absolutely no one really could have predicted, and he's played a big part in their development. I think for me, and one of the biggest frustrating things from a Wrexham point of view on Monday was they're not great defensively, and they're missing a lot of players at the moment.
Yeah, got a lot of injuries, haven't they?
A lot of injuries. I think Callum Chambers might be returning slowly, but Dylan Lawler is absolutely first name on the team sheet for me, and he's not quite near it yet. So that was a massive frustration from a Wrexham point of view that we didn't put them to the sword in that sense, because I think a number of other teams in this division will, that they'll be done by half time. But going the other way, listen, the Colwell brothers are really, really top quality, and the signing from Lincoln, Jack Moylan, a top player who I think really has the potential to shine in this division. And yeah, it's going to be tough for them. They're a very young side. They've got a lot of players who showed they were capable at League One level, but it's a big ask to do that again in the Championship.
Mid-table relegation battle or better?
I think it could be a little bit of a relegation battle. Listen, I don't think they'll go down. I think they will survive, but it's going to be tough. I think Brian Barry Murphy could be someone who, if a top end club loses their manager, he could be, certainly one first name on the list. And if they lose him, listen, Cardiff fans, obviously a great season last year, but still there's a little bit of unrest with that ownership group. So, important decisions to be made there for sure.
Let's look next then at Bolton Wanderers. They emerged through the playoffs up from League One. Adversaries, of course, of Wrexham in their own League One season a couple of years ago. But under Stephen Schumacher, the Wanderers are now back in the Championship. They were, of course, mainstays in the Premier League for many years under Sam Allardyce not too long ago, but back now in the Championship. Mark, one of your former clubs, of course. What do you think the vibe will be around the Tough Sheet Stadium this season? Is this about survival, or will Bolton fans have aspirations to go higher?
I think survival first and foremost. I think the way that they went up and again the way that they performed, they will definitely be looking for a good start of the season and use the momentum that they had from the end of last year. I think that's so important for all three of the teams that have come up. Is they're used to winning. What are they going to be like when they do start losing a couple of games in a row? That's always tough to turn around. So teams that are newly promoted, it's so important to get off to a fast start, get the points on the board as quick as possible. I think Bolton will be no different. The way that they play is high energy, especially first half, try and get a lead and then try and stay in the lead second half. And with a great start against Preston last week, and a bit of a derby as well, they performed really well with an old familiar face. Sam Dolby up front will be used really well. I think that the way that he starts game, strong, powerful, and it looks to get goals as well, Sam, still, so a great player for them.
Three, of course, ex-Wrexham players with Lewis Brunt there and Ryan Hardy as well. So a big Wrexham interest. We will keep a close eye on Bolton Wanderers through the season. The other promoted side were perhaps the surprise package of the League One season last year, but they were the champions, led by Michael Skubala. He left the club in the summer. He's gone to Bristol City. So Lincoln City will perhaps be the unknown quantity in the Championship this year. And if we have a look at what they have done in succession to Skubala, well, it's a very intriguing decision because they're going into the season with joint managers. Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw were part of Skubala's backroom team, and the decision of the Lincoln City hierarchy was to go for continuity and to trust the coaches who've helped get them into this position. Mia, with a heavy spend this summer, what are you thinking about Lincoln's prospects?
Yeah, they're a really interesting one to sort of predict. Looking across a number of pundit, predictions and stuff, a lot of people have them under Bolton and Cardiff, and I think maybe that's a little bit naive when you look at the difference that they had over them just last season. I know Skubala's left, but I think they're such a well-run club who do things really well, but do things really well quietly. And they've got a lot of pieces really well put together. Listen, I really like Skubala, but I also think how much of that was him in terms of just him as an individual. I think if he steps away, obviously they've kept it internally. You talk about that continuity. That's so important at this level to try and keep that and not change your style of play. I expect them to have the same style of play again this season, being very intense, very direct. I think that suits the Championship. If you're maybe a Cardiff, you want to be more, ball possession, that's more difficult making that step up. Whereas I think their sort of style might suit them a little bit more. Listen, I think they'll do okay. I've just predicted them to just avoid relegation, so we'll see how that one ends up in a few months' time. But no, strong side. I expect them to still make a few more signings before the end of this season. But like I said, you've got to remember, I think they were 12 points ahead of Cardiff last season. I think they were 20 odd ahead of Bolton. That gap doesn't just close overnight.
Lincoln City will be an intriguing one to follow as they step up into the Championship, a division they've not been in too often in their history. Certainly an exciting season ahead for the fans of the Imps. Well, of course, this is the time in the football season with lots of comings and goings, all clubs changing around their playing squads to get ready for the new season. And of course, here at Wrexham, it's been no different. So let's have a little reminder of the players, first of all, who have departed the club this summer, because there's many on this list who I'm sure you will have very fond memories of. Andy Cannon heading off to Fleetwood on a free transfer. Jay Rodriguez and goalkeeper Ruben Egan released as free agents. We wait to see where their next destinations may be. Paul Mullin, wishing him all the very best at Rotherham United. He wore the captain's armband for his debut for the Millers last Saturday, so we wish him well there with Rotherham. Issa Kabore has gone back to Manchester City with his loan having concluded. Tom O'Connor's loan to Peterborough has been made permanent. Lewis Brunt transferred for an undisclosed fee to Bolton Wanderers, as we've touched on, and 3 loanees heading out of the building. Arthur Okonkwo to Charlton on a season-long loan, Ryan Barnett doing the same to Milton Keynes Dons, and Ryan Hardy also headed for Bolton Wanderers. Many players there with storied Wrexham histories, back-to-back promotion winners, back-to-back-to-back promotion winners on that list as well. We haven't got time really to do justice to all of them today, but let's pick up on a couple. Arthur Okonkwo's move to Charlton Athletic announced this week on a season-long loan. Mark, what were your thoughts when you saw that one?
Yeah, not surprised. Once Pato's come in, the writing's kind of on the wall for Arthur, but a really good move, fantastic move for Arthur, and a place that he'll go and play and enjoy in front of another good set of fans, a good stadium, and another manager to ply his trade under. But he'll learn a lot as well from Nathan Jones. It'll be a great place for him to start the season probably better than he did last year. And I think Arthur, the way that the season also finished with Wardy going back in, would have been a bit felt hard done by with that. So I think it's one of those that it's a big season ahead for Arthur to see if he really can make that next progression and to see if he can compete right at the top of this league or to push for a move to pastures new in the Premier League.
And Lewis Bruntmere, if we pick him out, Wrexham managing to secure a fee for him from Bolton Wanderers. And of course we've got the backdrop this season, haven't we, with the squad cost rulings, which are new around how much clubs can spend on players and a tighter governance really of the whole management of ins and outs and salaries.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the one thing over the last few years that, you know, you could sort of having an argument against what Wrexham have done over the past few seasons in terms of bringing those transfer fees actually going the other way. And, you know, to get a fee for Lewis Brunt is really important. I think, you know, Andy Morrell actually had a little hot take that was Lewis Brunt was going to be his sort of player of the season, so it shows how much he knows. But I had to have a little dig on his not here.
I saw you go after him straight away about
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely, but no, I completely agree. And there comes a point where you do have to start getting that money in based off these players. And I think we're still playing catch up in terms of that back-to-back promotions. And you know, you're thinking you're going to have some of these players for a long period of time, and suddenly you're just playing above their level. And that's football. That's how it goes. But yeah, you can see why, you know, it's really good to get a fee for him. Listen, I wish him the best of luck. I think Callum Doyle's come in, and again, like I say, just been that another level. Lewis Brunt's a top player though, and I really hope he does really good things at Bolton.
We will follow his progress with interest. Now then, 3 incomings to talk to you a little bit more about today, all of whom start this afternoon for their first opportunity to play in red at the Stoke Kairas, starting with goalkeeper Anthony Patterson. Recruited from Sunderland, he spent much of last season out on loan at Millwall, but he's racked up almost 170 appearances for the Black Cats, player of the match in the 2025 Sky Bet Championship playoff final when his team beat Sheffield United. The arrival of Robin Roofs meant that he pushed down the pecking order at the Stadium of Light, and Phil Parkinson made his move for Patterson in the last couple of weeks. Mark, talk to us about Anthony Patterson, his qualities, and why you think Phil Parkinson thought he was the right man for the job.
I think Pato's the perfect all-rounder. I think he makes saves, he comes for crosses, reads the game well, and he kicks it well. So I think that all of those things together make for the perfect goalkeeper for Phil. He's a very calming influence and a leader in the dressing room as well, even though he's still relatively young in the goalkeeping well. But I think his form last year, like you said, at Millwall, and his clean sheet record speaks for itself. And I think that this year that's what their aim will be for Wrexham, is to keep more clean sheets over the entirety of the season.
Danny Imre is the next new signing that we'd like to spotlight. Imre had an interesting route to the Premier League, having signed from Crystal Palace His route began in non-league football with Ilford and Chelmsford City, amongst others. He's had to bide his time out on loan with Bromley, with Blackpool and with West Bromwich Albion, as you can see on screen. But Phil Parkinson deciding he was the perfect replacement for Issa Kabore as Kabore heads back to Manchester City. Mia, you've seen Imre in his first couple of appearances for the club. What have been your initial reflections?
Just a really good wing back. I think in his younger days he was more of an attacking midfielder, and you can almost see that in just how much threat he offers going forward, but equally so going back. And we say that so often about those wing backs, they've got to do both, got to be able to do it both ways. And just a top signing, obviously quite the way to announce him on top of the Empire State as well, so he certainly came in with quite a lot of
nice place to do it.
It's alright, isn't it? It's not bad, but no, I thought he was really good, showing signs early on. Obviously not quite fully fit yet, maybe had a little bit of a in-out sort of pre-season because of that uncertainty and where he was going to end up, but already I thought he was brilliant at Cardiff, just really pushing on and staying high, but also had that then desire, if it did flip round, to make sure he got back in there. And yeah, I just think he's sort of the blueprint of, well, you know what, if we know we need to upgrade in that position, that's what you can go get, and immediately he's showing the signs.
And finally, to complete our set of new signings, a man who takes his first bow in red at home this afternoon, Ben Whiteman, recruited from Preston North End. 200 appearances in white, including many as captain, having previously undertaken that role at Doncaster Rovers. He arrives aged 30, ready to anchor the Wrexham midfield. As you can see on screen, he's not necessarily a prolific goal scorer or a player who's going to necessarily create a heap of chances, but he's a hard-working defensive midfielder there to protect the back line and to set the pace from the back of midfield. Mark, do you see him really as a alternative for Matty James in this squad? Is he a similar type of player?
I think he's a bit of a hybrid for them all. He's got the passing range that Dobson and Matty James both have, but he's also got a really good engine. He's got that long leg style. He covers a lot of ground, and like I said before, Phil loves a leader in the dressing room, and he also loves consistency. And Ben's got both of them in abundance, so I think you'll see Ben really grow into his position in that anchoring of the midfield in that sixth position, and he uses the ball well. Like I said before, his range of passing is fantastic, and I think that's something to try and release the wing backs, get the ball in behind for Kiefer and Broadhead and Rathbone running forward. I think he's going to play a really key role this season.
Well, we look forward to seeing Whiteman this afternoon on his debut, which is going to be in around about 10 minutes time. Wrexham facing Watford in 10 minutes. Full coverage of the match via the Wrexham Club website. Watford, of course, though, started this season really well with victory over Southampton on the opening day, as Mia was mentioning. And a key player for them this afternoon is Matty Pollock, centre-back, son of Jamie Pollock, once of Bolton Wanderers, Middlesbrough and Manchester City. So Premier League genes for Matty. He is a key rock at the heart of the Watford defence. Player of the season last year, a regular in the side. And Mia won this afternoon, who Kiefer Moore is going to have to work hard to get the better of.
Yeah, I think so. He's someone I really like, someone I'm a little bit surprised in some ways to still see actually in a Watford shirt, just because I thought he'd maybe get a move this summer, but they've actually done quite well to keep hold of a few decent players in there, and he's certainly one of them. Obviously got the captain's armband going into this season. Obviously there's a little bit of uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty around Loser, who looks to be leaving the club. Obviously had the armband a lot of the time last year, but Matty Pollock, just talking about Saturday in that game against Southampton, I thought Watford were really good in the first half, had a lot of intensity. Obviously naturally that then decreased in that second half, and particularly in that final half hour Southampton were really putting them under the cosh, but I swear every ball that went into the box Matty Pollock was on the end of. He was absolutely superb, and that's why he got man of the match that day. And if he performs like that again today, then it's going to be a tough challenge for Wrexham.
And Watford, new season, new manager. It tends to be the pattern, doesn't it? I think 24 permanent managers, Mark, at Watford since the Pozzo family took over in 2012. But Alessio Dionisio comes with a good reputation from management in the Serie A in Italy, and quite an Italian influence already on this squad.
Yeah, obviously Watford, they're never consistent. It's one of those things that I think that they've had good appointments in the past, but they've never lasted long enough to be successful. I was actually speaking to one of their coaches before the game, Adrian Mariappa, who said that this guy's different. This guy's got something about him. and he spoke really highly of him. So it'll be really interesting to see the Watford that finished, I think it was 16th, 17th last year, and how big that they will change. But yeah, Watford as a club, the amount of managerial changes has been their undoing, I would say.
Mark, Mia, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you both again at half-time to review the first half. You're going to join Mark Griffiths on commentary, and don't forget you can get involved in the game today by taking your selfie and posting it to the fan wall. The QR code is on screen now. That gives you the chance to appear either on our virtual fan wall through the periods of play on the Matchday Live page on YouTube, or perhaps to appear on the big screens in the ground. So make sure to take your selfies and tell us from where you are watching. All right, it's just coming up to 5 to 3. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can rejoin us at half-time for all the analysis with Mark and Mia, when we're also going to be joined by Jenny Sugarman, the Wrexham women's manager, to get her take on their Champions League programme this summer and their domestic season ahead. But if you'd like full coverage, or perhaps you are already there, head to the Wrexham AFC website, where Mark Griffiths will take commentary from here up until half-time. We look forward to talking to you at half-time for all the first half reaction, but for now, it's over to Mark.
to stay here and keep an eye on the kit, or we can go and we can ask Mark, Chris to keep an eye on the kit. We can disappear for a bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to do whatever.
Can you ask them if we can switch the RF?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see if they responded. Oh yeah, they said okay, it's fine.
Yeah, they can do it. We can do it.
Huh?
We can switch RF
Yeah.
on.
That's not RF.
Car was going the wrong way from the 66. It's gone the wrong way. This is coming down. We've been head on. It's killed everyone in both vehicles. That's got to be a serious. They're doing especially in 70. Trying it going up to 66 is the opposite direction.
Across there.
Just the fact it's fine. There's a TikTok thing at the minute where kids are videoing themselves on the field. It's a trend. I think it'll come out someday. I went to a job a couple of years ago. I went to the doctor about So,
Substitution for Watford, leaving the field, number 23, Omar Traore. He's being replaced by number 56, Albert Eames. Mae reserves swyddog wedi dynodi gyda'n lleol syml 4 munud o chwanegol. The fourth official has indicated that there will be a minimum of 4 minutes. Added time, 4 minutes.
Here at the Stoke half-time at the Stoke Kairas, it's Wrexham 1, Watford 1. An entertaining opening 45 minutes here in the North Walian sunshine. Watford getting off to the best possible start in the 14th minute. Omar Traore with the cross. And the man who was the leading scorer for Watford last season, Lucas Kirumgo, rising highest, getting in front of Dom Hyam to power his header past Anthony Patterson. Kirumgo is a handful at this level. He's a big, powerful centre-forward, and he got in front of Hyam to plant his header home and give Watford an early lead. Wrexham, though, bounced back and played with good energy for the rest of the opening 45. Danny Imre was at the heart of a lot of their best work, and it was he who equalised in the 22nd minute. A really nice move started by Ollie Rathbone on the halfway line, bringing in Lewis O'Brien on the break. O'Brien found Kiefer Moore, and Kiefer Moore's left foot cross was thumped home by Danny Imre. He had a few yellow shirts in front of him, but the wing-back enjoying his first goal for the club. Imre went close again later in the half. A left foot shot after good work from Rathbone hitting the post. It was a lively performance from Imre through the first half. Wrexham have worked hard to move the ball at pace. In truth, Anthony Patterson hasn't had a huge amount to do apart from the goal that flashed past him early on. Wrexham have looked to move the ball quickly and use the width of the surface. Perfect playing conditions this afternoon in the sunshine, and the pitch, of course, in immaculate condition. The only disappointment, perhaps, will be the injury to George Thomason, which occurred 5 minutes before the interval. We had a sustained break in play whilst Thomason had a bandage applied to his head. He clashed with Omar Traore. Traore needing to be substituted for Watford at that stage. Thomason, though, fortunately unable to carry on for Wrexham and continue for the rest of the opening exchanges. Kiefer Moore went close right towards the end of the half for Wrexham. Nathan Broadhead playing him in, and Moore sweeping the ball goalwards. A good save, though, by Ravalia in the Watford goal. So Wrexham all square with Watford at the interval. 1 goal apiece after the Red Dragons fought back from that early setback. Chance for us at half-time to catch up with Mia Roberts and Mark Howard, who have been on co-commentary with Mark Griffiths in the first half. We're going to be joined in a moment as well by Jenny Sugarman, the Wrexham women's manager, and get her take on the opening 45 minutes, as well as her thoughts on the Champions League campaign that her team conducted during the summer and their domestic season ahead. So we're into the Matchday Live studio. I hope you enjoyed our little walk from the halfway line. And I'm joined by Mia, Mark and Jenny. 1-1 at the interval. Mia, I'll come to you first. What did you make of the opening 45?
Yeah, really positive, to be honest. Really happy with it. I think, you know, the Watford goal was against the run of play, in my opinion. I think we could have prevented the Watford goal. I think Nathan Broadhead has to be sprinting out to that press. It was a little bit relaxed, a little bit too casual. But apart from that, I think Wrexham have created, again, a lot of chances, and you know, the issue maybe has been that quality in the final third, not necessarily in that final bit, but those crosses into the box, hitting that first man just one too many times, and you know, that's something that can be rectified. But again, Danny Imre, absolutely superb in terms of his positioning and where he finds himself. I compared him to a bit of a Jacob Mendy, Ryan Barnett in those early Parkinson years, just always being there in that in those final moments, back post, or almost as that sort of second striker to keep him more in moments. And yeah, I think Phil Parkinson will be really pleased, but also maybe a bit frustrated that actually we're not ahead.
Mark, how have you seen it?
Yeah, just an entertaining first half of football. Both teams have lacked a little bit of quality. I think Ben Whiteman's been in control of the game for the majority. It's been really good to see his range of passing, the weight of his pass. He's played a couple of good balls down the line or over the top, and I think it's just been a game of a physicality game. I think Wrexham are trying to wear Watford down and take it to the later stages of the game, and Watford's strength in depth just isn't quite there as well, so hopefully that's a tactic that Phil's using. I think that the pressure that Ollie Rathbone and Imre are putting on this left side of Watford's defence has been really strong, and just like Mia said, the lack of quality in the wide areas is slightly letting Wrexham down. I think that even Moore's cross, the cutback for the goal, isn't the most amazing cross. It's almost a sclaff that finds the right place. But yeah, I think if we can see a bit more quality in the wider positions, the game's there for Wrexham.
Jenny, lovely to see you. Welcome back to Matchday Live. Always a treat to have you with us here today. We'll chat about your women's team in just a moment, but we've had the chance to watch that first half together. And Mark making the point that the Wrexham goal, perhaps not Kiefer Moore's cleanest delivery, but a tremendous finish from Danny Imre. What have you made overall of the Wrexham performance?
Yeah, I thought the goal was a nice, exciting character we played. It was great. The way they rolled the tackle in the breakaway was exceptional, and an excellent finish at the end of it through what was quite a difficult shot back as well. So nicely taken goal, nicely worked goal. I think obviously a bit disappointed with the one conceded earlier on. So like I say, some work to do on stopping the crosses and then competing with the Watford centre forward, because he's a big lad and looking to get on the end of those.
From a coaching perspective, looking at the goal that was conceded, Jenny, what would you be saying? Where would you be focusing on where that went wrong?
I mean, I didn't see a huge amount in the build-up to it, but certainly the two key moments are stopping the cross in the first place, but then the details in the box of maybe making contact, and I think Dunheim did a great job on the next cross that came in. It was clear that he'd learnt from that, and he got tight early, made contact with his man, and made sure he knew where he was before the cross came in. So yeah, probably those details there.
Mark, we'll let you go another bit of a breather now at half-time here, and I will carry on chatting things through with Jenny about the women's season ahead, because exciting times for you this summer, Jenny, with the women's side, but also your new season domestically starts with Watford, ironically, in a friendly tomorrow. Lots to get through, but let's just start with your Champions League adventures and your overall reflections and learnings from the two matches here in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, what an incredible experience it was, personally, collectively, for everybody involved in that. And by that, I don't just mean the players and the staff that were out there on the pitch. You know, as a club hosting a mini tournament in UEFA Champions League qualifying, and operationally and logistically everything that goes on behind the scenes with that. And then for the fans and the supporters and the people of the club that got to experience those two games, just, you know, a huge moment for us, certainly for me. You know, first experience in European football. Doesn't matter to me that it's first round qualifying. To me, I've now managed the Champions League, and yeah, some different challenges tactically, some different challenges from opposition, but I think probably the biggest one being the turnaround of games in such a short space of time, both from a physical perspective of making sure the players are prepared and ready to go and recover from the first one, but also tactically, and you know, to be able to turn around a game plan and make sure everybody has clarity around what they're expected to deliver was something different and new for us.
You mentioned a number of the challenges and aspects you had to consider as part of preparation, Jenny, but of all the different dimensions, what was the biggest bit that had you and your support staff sitting and discussing kind of how do we work this one out?
So we obviously did a lot of prep beforehand, sort of tactically on the oppositions, and then we came and watched the other first round game, and Riga presented quite differently to what we'd seen from their league, because their league, they absolutely dominate. I mean, they'd won 22-0 in one of their 3 previous games, so for what we saw from them being quite tactically different, that was then quite a big turnaround for us. And then similarly, both themselves and even more so the Armenian champions signed players like the night before our game.
Commentator's nightmare as well, honestly.
Quickly searching through, we were out training on the Tuesday night, and the analysts were quickly scrolling through Y-Scout to see what data they could find on these players and where they come from. So that was a huge challenge, and then I think just the nature of the people is intense. Like, you're together, you're in the hotel together, you're prepping, you're training, you're researching, you're pulling presentations together. Just the intensity of that to deliver two of some of our biggest, individuals and collectively, two of the biggest potential games of your career. It's quite intense. It's quite a lot of pressure.
Can I just ask you on the Champions League, both fixtures I suppose are included, to have girls like Ava Suckley and Lily Jones scoring in those games on that stage, in the magnitude of a game that is, and obviously the competition, How much does that mean? Obviously, anyone could have scored, and I'm sure you would have been off your seat. But in terms of those girls and boys in the stands who are actually seeing girls from Wrexham, delivering on that big stage, how important is that?
Massive. It's massive. It's not just massive for them. It's massive for all of us. Like, we're all so proud that local girls, local women, were able to do that. And I think that's something that we speak about. It's something we want to maintain. Like, as we develop and improve and grow this team, we want to retain that identity. We want to retain that connection with the local people and the town. And who better than those young women to do that? And that goal, certainly in game one when Lily scored, in the second half to put us ahead, was just an incredible moment. And what a goal! And amazing because it was an incredible moment for her, but it was great for the team because that's some of the prep that we've done. Some of the prep that we've done on the high press, the turnover, to create goal scoring opportunities. That's then great for us as staff as well. But to see players like those two, like Phoebe, that are the fabric of this football club and have been on this journey with this team on the women's side for such a long time, to be able to represent their people on what is the biggest competition in world football, we're all incredibly proud of them.
And now you have the new season on your doorstep, Jenny. You've got to take the learnings from the Champions League and the fitness boost perhaps that it gave you in readiness preparation. You've got Watford tomorrow at the Rock, 2:30 kick-off there for 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, thank you very much. 2 o'clock, get to the Rock if you can for 2 o'clock tomorrow to see Watford from WSL 2, and then straight back at it with Aberystwyth, the opening opposition on the 6th of September. As you look forward to the new season, Jenny, what challenges does it give you being the hunted rather than the hunters?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something that, as part of our recruitment plan, was something that we considered as well, is like players that, what was important last year, players like Katie Barker and Jodie Bartle, who have been on journeys around like building and growing a team and moving up through from amateur professionalism and that kind of stuff. But now it was like, okay, well, who maybe has gone from that transition as well to now being the hunted, like you say, being the champions, and that does bring a slightly different dynamic and a different feeling, a different level of pressure. So yeah, we've spoken about it. Like I say, it's been part of our recruitment plan as well. But also, like, we want that to breed a level of confidence within the group that we will view each game that we believe that we can go and win it. We've always done that. We've always tried to make sure that we've got a plan to make sure that we can win it. But it does come down to some of that belief now as well. But we have to remember, and this may be slightly different to last year, but probably not a lot, but potentially everybody else's cup final as well. Everybody wants to beat Wrexham, and everybody wants to beat the champions. Everybody wants to have their day against the champions, don't you? So that also brings that little dynamic from the opposition as well.
Can I just ask you, Jenny, about pre-season so far? Obviously got Watford tomorrow, Wolves Thursday. The calibre of sides, Liverpool 21s the other night, obviously had Sporting Jacks in there as well. It's been quite a tough pre-season, obviously in between sandwiched in the Champions League games, the little pre-season you had as well away in Ireland. How has that been set up, and what was the sort of thinking behind the matchup with these high-level sides?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was like who you can get to play at different points, because obviously with the Champions League being sandwiched right in the middle, we were looking for games early doors when other teams were not back in pre-season, so going to Ireland where they were mid-season was really helpful with that. And then when you get to the latter end, obviously, like if we wanted to play maybe National League sides from in England, they're already back now in season, so you're a little bit stuck and hamstrung by who is available. But actually, last season's pre-season was completely different. We were playing Tier 5 and 6 teams from England, so it was important to us to up that level, to expose our players, our staff, and the wider club to a higher level on and off pitch. So having Wolves and Watford as two newly promoted sides to WSL2, I think gives us all a little window, whether it's some of our players that want to play at a higher level themselves and go on that journey with us, or whether it's around like the wider view of the Adrian Pen and the Welsh game. We want to showcase.
Jenny, thank you so much for joining us. Players coming out for the second half, so we'll need to wrap up. We wish you all the very best for the season ahead. We hope to see you again on Matchday Live as the season unfolds. Jenny Sugarman, Wrexham women's manager. Women now back in action tomorrow at the Rock, pre-season friendly, 2 o'clock kickoff against Watford. Same opposition as the men today, if you can get there. All right, players coming out for the second half. Wrexham 1, Watford 1 at the interval. Don't forget you can rejoin us on YouTube at full time for all the full-time analysis analysis. And if you're watching on the club live stream via the club website, I'll hand you back now to Mark Griffiths, who will pick up second half commentary.
number 19, Keith Moore. He is replaced by number 28, Sam Smith. Substitute Watford in the field, number 9, Luca Kiringo, is replaced by number 11, Rocco Batter. In the field, number 8, Eduardo Bove, is replaced by number 39, Edo Kayembe. And in the field, number 21, Amin Ebezaga, is replaced by number 20, Mamadou Doumbia. Substitute for Wrexham, leaving the field, number 20, Ollie Rathbone. He's been replaced by number 11, David Hadabatri. Substitution for Wrexham, in the field number 40, Danny Ingram. He's in replaced by number 47, Ryan Longman. And in the field number 33, Nathan Broadhead. He's been replaced by number 37, Matty James. The official attendance at the Kairos, 10,582. I bring my thanks to the 1,262 away fans. We do hope you have a safe journey home. Substitution for Wrexham, leaving the field, number 14, George Thomason. He's been replaced by number 4, Matt Stewart. and Bennett Heavy. Bydd y gêm nesaf ar y Cairas, Steve Gwenner yn erbyn Birmingham, gyda'r Dick Wilton and George Paul. Thank you all for your fantastic support. A reminder, the next home game here at the Cairas is on Friday, August 28th, when Birmingham City and the Visitors for our Sky Bet Championship match, which kicks off at 8 p.m.
Full time here at the racecourse ground, and it is finished Wrexham 1, Watford 1. Honours even then as the Red Dragons return home for the first time this season. Probably a fair result over the 90 minutes in the second half. There were relatively few chances to trouble either goalkeeper. George Thomason coming the closest for Wrexham. His effort from a neat Ollie Rathbone cross touching the top of the crossbar. In truth, Anthony Patterson was rarely extended in the second half. The game flowing from end to end, but without too many clear-cut chances. The two goals both coming in the opening 45. Luca Kiramgo with the opener for the Hornets on the 14-minute mark, equalised by Danny Imre's powerful shot 10 minutes later. But in the second half, there were no further dividends in the goal column. This one finishing Wrexham 1, Watford 1. Mark Howard and Mia Roberts have been on co-commentary upstairs with Mark Griffiths. Mark, I'll come to you first. What were your overall reflections on the afternoon?
Probably a fair result at the end of the day. I thought that second half became a little bit scrappy, a bit stretched and lacked quality. I think Wrexham I would say they were a better team overall, but with Watford having some exciting key players in their team, I feel like we just didn't really test them, especially from the wide areas. I think we lacked a bit of quality when crossing the ball. I think there was a few too many cut-back crosses instead of hanging them up to the back post. We didn't manage to find anyone with any real quality. Set pieces were a bit poor. And I think it was just one of those games that it was a proper championship game where neither team wanted to lose. It's the start of a season where you're trying to gain points, but you're not trying to lose any. And I think that was a fair reflection on the game. I think that it could have went either way, but with neither team really creating that one moment of real quality that you go, oh, that was the match-defining moment.
Mia, how would you contrast that Wrexham performance to the one at Cardiff?
Yeah, I think different in the sense, I think we only finished on about 2 shots on target today, if my final notes are correct. And yeah, it's, I thought on Monday it could have quite easily been 3 or 4, and you know that's probably being generous. I think we said it was 7 shots on target in the end, and obviously we don't expect every single chance to end up in the back of the net. But yeah, today, like Mark said, it just felt a little bit lacking in actual delivery into that box, and you know, just the bit actually before the strike, if you like. And so yeah, it was a little bit more similar to that Middlesbrough performance maybe than the Cardiff one on Monday night, and not in the sense of the legs and fatigue levels, because you know that's a separate story altogether. But you know, particularly in that final third, I think it lacked something. And yeah, listen, like what Mark touched on, in the last few minutes you're thinking we're making up for what was a disappointing goal to concede on Monday with the free kick. We're going to do it for ourselves and have our sort of last minute free kick moment. But you know, maybe those are the areas where you're just missing a Josh Windass. You know, someone like that with, you know, I always said it last season, almost like he's got that bit of magic in his boots. And you know, that's where maybe for the opening start of this season anyway, I'm expecting people like Nathan Broadhead to step up and take that mantle on their shoulders a bit more, and you know, come up with these moments where you just have to hold your hands up, whether you're a defence, opposition, whoever, and just go, wow, you know, that's how you get a goal. Sometimes that's what it takes, that bit of just pure, you know, genius really, and we're just lacking that at the moment, just not quite dropping for us, a little bit unlucky in times with those balls into the box, but again, positives to take and a point gained.
We'll take a look at the statistics then of the 90 minutes and see how they shook down from this 1-1 draw. Wrexham at least having the good feel of the fact that they are unbeaten in their opening 2 championship games, but I'm sure Phil Parkinson will have some sense of frustration that his side haven't picked up more than those 2 points. Let's have a look at how the figures break down then. 59% possession for Wrexham. They had the lion's share over the match, more shots in total as well. Defensively, the aerial duels edged by Watford, the tackles won very much balanced between the two. Watford having to make more clearances, perhaps that a symptom of Wrexham having more of the ball and putting more pressure on the Watford back line, but in truth Matty Pollock and co dealt pretty comfortably through much of the afternoon, and despite Wrexham having the lion's share of possession, as Mark and Mia have been saying, struggling to create the number of genuine clear-cut opportunities that they did against Cardiff on Monday. Mark, do you feel that the opportunity that was perhaps not taken today was to get the ball wider quicker, or where might Phil look at that and go, well, that's where we could have dialed it up a gear?
I think the ball did end up in the wide positions enough times. We've seen from the stats there was plenty of attempted crosses, just lacked quality. And I think that this is probably a symptomatic of it being so early in the season, that when Kiefer plays, Wrexham normally play more direct. They didn't do that today. Once they're free-flowing and they're into their groove further into the season, more games into the season, you'll probably see that as more of a tactic. This game almost looked like it should have been a Sam Smith started the game, then bring Kiefer on and go more direct later on in the game.
Mia, when you look at the way that Wrexham have moved the ball this afternoon, do you feel that that gives signs of encouragement, or were there aspects that you felt they needed to move it more quickly?
No, I think it was very encouraging, particularly in the first half. I think, again, you know, we were getting into some brilliant positions, and we highlighted Danny Imre at half-time, obviously for the goal, but also just in terms of how often he was available, and just, you know, when he steps forward, it's not just him that's taking up that position. He's also taking his defender with him, and you know, that creates then more space out wide. Whether it's an Ollie Rathbone who wants to go out there, whether it's a, you know, Zach Viner on an overlapping run or whatever. So that all helps us, and you know, it's people having that bit about them, and maybe just being a bit brave and going, you know what, I'm going to step on. We're going to be a bit more positive, and you know, I think sometimes we critiqued that a little bit last season in terms of that back three maybe dropping off a little bit too soon in games, and obviously it's different today because we were chasing the game after conceding first. But yeah, listen, I think Ben Whiteman did really well. I thought he was really good, and obviously it's a big statement for Phil Parkinson to leave him on alongside Matty James. Is that the two that will become the usual two instead of one of them and an O'Brien, for example? I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought we had again some really good phases of play and a lot of positives, and it is just either we don't take our chances when we make them, or we're just struggling to get that final chance actually created in itself.
Goalkeeper watch, Mark. Give us your perspective on Anthony Patterson's afternoon.
Just a professional performance, kept a quiet goal. Everything that was thrown at him, he made look quite easy. Didn't give them any encouragement. I mean, the free kicks, you'd think it might have been a bit of nerves, but he caught one easily in the first half, and he had a couple of low dives that he gathered really well, and apart from that, yeah, distribution was good. It was actually good in the last 5 minutes to see him kick a couple of long ones and go a bit more direct, and I think we actually created one opportunity from that with Sam Smith bringing the ball down. So yeah, really encouraged and a good home debut for him.
And I guess, Mark, overall a relatively comfortable afternoon for the Wrexham backline in terms of the number of Watford chances that were created. The frustration for Phil will be the one clear chance, perhaps defensively, they could have dealt with better. Yeah,
exactly that. And I think that they could have, one, got out, blocked the cross a bit easier, a bit quicker. And I think Dom Hine maybe gets caught on the wrong side. He's actually defending behind the striker who gets the clear run in front of him. So normally you try and position yourself between goal and striker, and I think he maybe just gets caught there, but so it's also a great header and a great cross.
I guess the cross as well, Mark, it wasn't a traditional wing back gets round the back and whips it in. It was actually about 15 metres infield, wasn't it? One of those sort of awkward positions where who's to go there? Is that to be Thomason to pick it up from left wing back, or is that one of the central midfielders to cover a cross?
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's one of those things that they'll try and put right on the training ground. But I think Thomason personally has got to stay wide, and it is got to be one of the midfielders that goes out and engages, because it was the right back, but almost in an inverted position. So yeah, I would say it's one of those that you can pinpoint it down and work on that on the training ground quite easily.
Mia, let's talk about Danny Imre, goal scorer today. He loves to get a long way forward, doesn't he? He almost becomes like an auxiliary striker at times. Give us your perspective on his whole performance, defensively as well.
No, I thought he was really good again. I think the only sort of frustration for me is that he can't quite yet do the 90 minutes, and that's nothing against someone like Ryan Longman who's coming on for him, but I just think that the level that Danny Imre is showing at the moment is a different sort of quality. And listen, I don't think that should be his first Wrexham goal, by the way. I think he should have had one at Middlesbrough for sure, and he might have actually had a chance on Monday night as well. But you know, that he's had 2 championship games now in a Wrexham shirt. That's an assist and a goal, so that's a very good return. And you know, I think I mentioned it on commentary as well in the game. I think that's something maybe last year we lacked in terms of our wing backs. You know, actually getting those goals and assists. So brilliant to see him on that today.
And as if by magic, on cue, as we talk about Danny Imre, he comes to join us in the Matchday Live studio. So welcome, Danny. Thank you for coming to join us. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on your goal today. Give us your perspective on the game, first of all.
I mean, I thought it was a game of fine margins. I felt like we definitely deserved to get the 3 points. But at the minute, it's just, I think the final bit is just not there. But we'll definitely build on it and hopefully get the win on Friday.
How did that game differ to play in versus the Cardiff one?
I mean, it was a bit different because obviously we're at home, so we want to be on the front foot. And I felt like we definitely was. I feel like we definitely had the better chances, and I don't really think Pato really had a shot to save really in the second half and even in the first half. I mean, as I said, it's fine margins at the minute, and I felt like we deserved the win as of Monday too. But we'll go back to the training pitch and work on it and hopefully go again.
You took your goal lovely. You actually were so patient, and instead of your shots after that, you actually slashed with your left foot, didn't you?
Yeah.
But your actual goal, I thought you took it really well. You was patient, took a good touch out, and then it's like you slowed the game down for yourself and picked your moment when to shoot and make a good connection. Obviously happy to get your goal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm delighted to get the goal, just frustrated not to get the 3 points. Happy to be contributing to the team, but I mean, me and the gaffer know we've been working on sort of shooting and training, and I know that I'm going to get myself into the moments, and it's just when I get myself into the moments, like you said, sort of slow down and sort of try and pick the sort of area in the goal and just sort of, and hopefully it goes in, which today it did, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Danny, can I just ask you about those sort of attacking positions you're getting yourself into? Because we were talking about just before you've actually arrived, in terms of how high you actually find yourself at times. Has that been a message from the gaffer, or in terms of how much freedom you actually have to sort of just go and do your own thing in terms of in an attacking sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely spoken about on the training pitch. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm a bit too high sometimes, and the gaffer said that to me at half time. Sometimes don't go too early. But I want to sort of get myself in them attacking positions and hopefully try and create moments for the strikers to score, someone else to score, and hopefully for me to score. And I felt like I did that today. It's just as I said, the final little bit that isn't there at the moment, but I'm sure it will come. It's the start of a long season, and I'm sure we'll pick up the points.
You look like you've also got a great relationship with Ollie Rathbone and Werner behind you, because Werner defensively is doing a lot of work isolating their attacking players, which gives you the freedom, you and Ollie Rathbone especially, to go and press higher up. Is that something you've been working on?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we are the day before the game, we work on sort of the tactics, and that's definitely what we've been working on. I mean, we want to press high, especially at home. We want to get on top of the team, and I feel like we all play the best football when we're like that, because if we don't give them a moment to breathe, then we can also create opportunities higher up the field, and that's where we all want to be.
Dan, you had a couple of loans last season, Blackpool before Christmas and then West Brom after. Just give us a little bit of a feeling as to how playing for Wrexham has felt so far in terms of style and the feel of the club compared to your time at the Hawthorns.
Yeah, I've loved my time here so far. I mean, obviously, as I said, we've not won yet, but I'm sure we will. But I've loved it here so far. All the boys everyone else is really welcoming. It's a massive club with massive ambition. I mean, it's like similar to the other clubs, but obviously Wrexham are a very big team, and they definitely want to sort of be pushing towards the top end of the table. And I feel like us as lads, we definitely believe in that, and we definitely will be there come the end of the season.
And just finally, Danny, I mean, you've had a really interesting football story as we get to this level of the pyramid at the Championship. Often there's players who've come through Premier League academies or that kind of background. You've worked your way up through non-league football, very much like Kiefer Moore. How do you think that changes how you look at the game and the way you play the game?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's a different story to sort of what the normal story cliches to say, but yeah, non-leagues taught me a lot. Don't take nothing for granted, and sort of most important, first thing on the pitch, you put 100% in. That's taught me from the lower leagues, and I feel like everyone in the team does that. I mean, the gaffer's recruited everyone, and I feel like that's the number one thing that he expects, to put 100% in on the pitch, and that's the minimum I can give to the fans, to the gaffer who's put the trust in me and bringing me here. Yeah, it's good.
Well, we certainly saw 100% from you today, Danny, and it was great to get your first goal as well in front of the home fans, so I'm sure that will give them plenty to talk about this evening, and we look forward to seeing you again on Friday for the Birmingham game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Danny Imre, Wrexham new signing this summer and goal scorer this afternoon in the 1-1 draw against Watford. The only thing missing for Danny today was the 3 points. But Mia, we touched on at the end there his footballing story, and I think it's always so refreshing that you find players who've worked their way up from non-league football. It gives people a sense of true belief that if you start out as he did at Ilford and Billericay Town and then play a fair bit in Conference South for Chelmsford City, that one day you can be playing at this level and potentially higher. He's still very young.
Yeah, there's no one set sort of journey, one route that can be followed. You know, football's so weird like that. You never know what's going to happen. You can sometimes rely on sort of other people's misfortune in sense of getting your opportunity or your go, and yeah, you know, great to hear a story like that and see one in the flesh really that really shows you that, you know, whether you're still 18, 19, not at that top level or side, you can still absolutely make it through working hard and determination. And you can tell from what he said there, he's absolutely got the right mentality, because as much as I bet he's buzzing on an individual point of view that he's, you know, made his debut at the Kairos and scored on that, you know, I'm sure, you know, equally so, as he said, he's disappointed not to come away with 3 points.
He seems to have taken it in his stride in his opening games for the club, Mark.
Definitely, I've been really impressed with him. The way that he presses, his high energy, and also the way that he goes about his business. I think he's really trying to make a mark on the team. He's not just happy to just settle and just put in a 6, 7 out of 10 performance. Every week he's trying to strive to be better. His performances have been really good, high energy, and like we said, he's getting chances, he's getting goals as well now, and I think that's been really impressive.
Here we are, full time at the Stoke Kairos, the racecourse ground, and it's finished Wrexham 1, Watford 1. We've got Phil Parkinson, the Wrexham manager, about to come in and join us. We'll also have a look in a moment at what's been happening around the division today with the scores from other games, and have a look at the early season table. So all that to come on Match Day Live in the next few minutes. We'll have a look at those full-time scores around the division now, just before we bring Phil in and have a quick scan and see what's been happening elsewhere today in the Sky Bet Championship. There were some games at lunchtime, as well as the 3 o'clocks today. Birmingham drawing with Bristol City. 2 each there at St Andrews. Lincoln beaten at home by Portsmouth, who bounced back from their defeat on the opening day last Saturday to QPR with a win there over in Lincolnshire. Millwall beating Norwich by 3-0. Powerful statement of intent there from Alex Neil's side. Blackburn beating Middlesbrough 2-1. All square between Derby and Cardiff, and Wolverhampton Wanderers winning at Preston North End. All square between QPR and Primoties Bolton Wanderers. Southampton bouncing back from their defeat to Watford on the opening day with a victory over Stoke. All square between Swansea and Sheffield United. Charlton winning at West Ham in the London derby. And we know what's happened here between Wrexham and Watford. Mia, any of those scores bounce out for you?
Well, the London Stadium, that could... attitudes and fans could shift quickly, I think, there. That's a poor result for West Ham, isn't it? But what a result for Charlton as well, and Nathan Jones. But yeah, a few already crazy results in there, but yeah.
Terrific win then for Charlton. Let's bring Phil into the studio. Phil, thanks for coming to join us post-match. What are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, Folk started the better of the two sides, and then the goal, obviously they get the first goal. And I thought we responded really well after that. We got back in the game and had some good moments. And in a game of not a lot of chances, we had the better ones, to have gone and win the game. I think, if we're honest, the quality of our crossing consistently wasn't where it needed to be to make more chances. And at times, the pitch dried up second half. There was a bit of fatigue, I think, with both teams, and we gave away 2, 3, 4 too many careless, simple passes, really. But overall, I think the lads have given us a lot again. And yeah, against a very dangerous counter-attacking team, we looked in the main very solid and didn't really feel troubled too much by them. But we've had the moments to have gone and taken to get that second goal.
You talk about crossing being the area that you felt you came up short today. Does that surprise you?
When it came up short, we hit the first man. At times where that quality just needed to be better. The one really quality one second half was when we nearly scored. I think it was Zach Viner, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Going on the overlap. So yeah, of course, sometimes that you don't get it right in those areas, but we can look at that and make sure that we practice in those situations and we're stronger.
How would you compare the performance to the Cardiff one?
I think it was a different game because we had a lot of the possession, didn't we? Second half, we controlled it, and you've always got to be mindful of the counter. We had comfortable possession, and yeah, so it was different. Where as the game wore on against Cardiff, we were the team counter attacking. So yeah, it was a bit of a reverse in certain respects. But listen, we're 2 points better off than we were last season. We've got a big week or 10 days ahead of us in terms of the transfers, and we'll look to improve.
The goal that you conceded today, what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it just kind of the cross coming in and Juice just got kind of overpowered in the middle of the goal, really, and of course, he's a threat. We knew that because he scored against us last year, and we weren't sure whether he'd start because he didn't start the first game of the season. But yeah, of course, marking in the box and just being aware of that movement is key. And we've got done with that. But listen, I thought all three new signings today were really good for us. Pato didn't really have a lot to do, but he was calm and assured. Imre got his goal, nearly scored again, and Ben Whiteman I thought was outstanding in the middle of the park for us.
Yeah, the goal that Danny Imre scored, a really nice team goal, I thought. Nicely worked initially by Rathbone and O'Brien, and then when the cross comes in from Kiefer Moore, Danny makes no mistake. Yeah,
no, pleased for Danny. Like I said before the game, we're managing him to a certain degree because it's a high energy position, a lot of demands on him there, but his all-round performance today I thought was really good, and he'll keep getting better.
Now, as you look forward, trying to, I guess, plan the fitness of the players now and not overwork them in the early weeks of the season, does this become a bit of an art as to how much you work them on the training ground, particularly with the next game coming on Friday?
Yeah, I think it's only what we know what we need to do. It's just managing the load of the lads who've played Monday and Saturday this week, and just make sure we build the week up for a great night on Friday night against Birmingham.
Phil, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson. Mentioning the game against Birmingham, which of course is next up for Wrexham, back-to-back home games with the Friday night fixture looming. We'll be back here for Matchday Live for that one. Let's have a look at the early season table. Probably a little bit too soon to draw too many conclusions, but we will have a little look at who has started quickly and who has struggled in the opening couple of games. And we will see as the table unfurls on the screen that it's Millwall who've got that 6 points from 6 start. Charlton Athletic under Nathan Jones, Arthur Okonkwo's new club, are in second place, also having picked up 2 victories. And then Wolves, QPR, Blackburn, Watford, Swansea and Bolton all unbeaten as well. Complete the top 8. Cardiff sitting there in 12th. Let's have a look at the bottom of the table. And as Phil says, Wrexham 2 points better off than they were at this stage last season. We were discussing that earlier in the show today about the fact that Wrexham's slow start last year might ultimately have cost them that last playoff place. But 2 points from the opening 2 games puts them in 13th position. Southampton, of course, were -4 from the start of the season as a hangover from the incidents in and around the playoff, which we discussed pre-match. They're back to -1 now with that win. Lincoln suffering 2 defeats back-to-back, so have Preston, Stoke and Norwich. Let's have a look at the road ahead for Wrexham very early in the season, but as we said, we have Birmingham City coming to town next Friday night. Always tasty when Tom Brady's crew are visiting, and that's an 8 p.m. kickoff on Friday night. We'll be on air with Matchday Live from 7. Millwall away, never an easy place to go come next, but that was a happy hunting ground for Wrexham early season last year. Then it's the second of 4 Welsh derbies away at Swansea on the 5th of September, and then we're back here for a Tuesday nighter against Burnley on the 8th of September. Then it's West Ham United, perhaps the most blue ribbon fixture of the season at the Olympic Stadium down in London on a Friday night. Southampton at home, a trip to Derby, West Brom at home, and then Preston North End takes us through to the middle of October. Well, Phil, clearly they're slightly frustrated, I think, Mark, on the performance, and picking up on the point that we've talked of post-match here about crossing as being perhaps the area where his side came up a bit short today.
I think it's probably where we've got used to seeing Ryan Longman down the wing. We've seen Mendy and James McLean whipping in crosses and strikers getting on the end of it. So we've had those sort of goals in abundance for the last few years, and today it just didn't quite materialise like that. And I think that, as Phil said and we've said, is just the quality of the crosses and the type of variation of crosses. It seemed that they were very one-minded today. They were all cutbacks, they were all slightly behind the strikers, and just lacked a little bit of quality. But again, like I said before, stuff you can work on. That's training ground stuff. That is just a case of putting on crossing and finishing drills, and it's repetition of putting the ball across the box and the striker making the right run, and the first striker getting across the front post, the second striker going around the back for the hang-up type of cross. It's just one of those things that you're getting used to. A couple of new players in Imre coming into the lineup, and I think it's just one of those things. It will come over time.
And I guess that's a positive, Mia, for Phil to work on, is if it's something that can be isolated, as Mark is saying, as a drill that you can just keep working on and keep working on, time can be spent on that. And particularly as at this time, this season compared to last, there isn't the need to work quite as much on so many new combinations. 3 new players have come in. There might be 1 or 2 more before 1st of September, of course, rather than 13 last year.
Well, you know, that's how I'd sort of put it in perspective. If you're going to look at, obviously, like Phil touched upon, you know, this time last year after our first away and first home, we no points, and also there were still a lot of alarm bells going off in terms of the performances as well, and obviously combinations. It didn't really know what strongest 11, didn't really know strongest 5 maybe in that side. It was a lot of changes, you know, just still scratching your head as the season's already begun. Whereas this year, I think, you know, that there's a lot of positives, like I keep saying, and you know, yes, there's frustration with crosses as a major thing to pick out, but apart from that, you know, I think everything else is steady. Defensively again today, I thought we looked pretty sound. You know, Patterson's come in and done for me a really good job now in both games that he's played. You know, new signings have come in and taken it pretty smoothly. Doesn't seem to be any sort of long bedding in process that needs to happen with them. So, you know, a lot of the signs are really good at the moment, and you know, you're looking across some of those other results. Yes, of course, focus on ourselves, absolutely, but looking across some of those other results, maybe apart from a Wolves or a Millwall, wall per se. No one else seems to have lighten up the league so far from the off. So you don't expect that. So let's just take our time and see what happens now. Obviously with the rest of the transfer window as well.
And this time last year, of course, Mark, the defence was very leaky. In the first 2 games, Wrexham have conceded 1 worldy free kick at the end of a game and 1 header today, which perhaps they should have dealt better with, but they haven't been under the cosh through games. There hasn't been lots of sort of scrambled clearances. They look as a defensive unit pretty solid, particularly to have only conceded 1 in each of the first 2 games. Yeah,
exactly that, and that's really positive. It's a positive way to go into the start of a new season. Is you've got a very settled back 4 now, I would say. I'd say that the 3 centre-halves are going to play the majority of the season with a goalkeeper they've spent a lot of money on that is going to be your mainstay, barring an injury or 2. So no, I think there's loads of positives. Like Mia said, there's a huge foundation to build on. And then now you've put Ben Whiteman in front of them to protect them, but also with that creative edge going forward, like we said, and his range of passing. And I think that the spine is looking really settled now. And I think barring a couple of other signings before the end of the transfer window, it definitely seems the case of this year. It's quality over quantity. Where last year, I don't know if we could say exactly the same. I think that the amount of signings that did come in last year did slightly unsettle the squad from a very settled group that we had for years in the promotion runs.
I think not all of those signings worked out in the end, did they?
Yeah, I think as well, just the trio that obviously haven't played a minute so far this season in Kakache, Sheaf and Windass, those are 3 huge players to this side. Arguably all 3 when fit come straight into that 11. So without them, and I hate the sort of saying that there'll be like new signings coming in, but it is that sort of impact that you're talking about. And it's someone like a Windass that today, I mentioned it earlier, has that moment in him to just grab the game by the scruff of the neck and just find the back of the net out of nothing. So I think they're huge as well, and really fingers crossed that one of them at least can maybe be available for Friday.
Well, Josh Windass was here today. He was in his civvies. Hopefully he might be available for Friday night, and we wait to see if Ben Sheaf and Libby Kakachi might join him. Mark Howard will certainly be here on Friday night, as will Mia Roberts. My thanks to you both for joining us today. Privileged to have you as ever. Look forward to Friday evening when the Blues come to town. Well, Wrexham suffered an early sting from the Hornets this afternoon, trailing early in the game. But they found a way back, Danny Imre managing to power the ball home. It was nip and tuck in the second half, no chance for Wrexham to find that winner. But positive early season signs for Phil Parkinson's side as they look to build their campaign in the Sky Bet Championship. Thanks for joining us on Matchday Live today, whether you've been with us on YouTube or on the club website. Thanks for being here. Diolch yn wylio. We'll see you on Friday for Birmingham. Goodbye.